Cutting edge guests, awesome, uncensored, jaw-dropping information, plus funny memes, good deeds, and loads of laughter. Kind of have it all. Ladies and gentlemen, if your soul is awake, then welcome, because you're in the right place. Welcome back to Send It Sunday, you divine lions and lionesses. I almost did not do the show, except what happened, what precipitated in the last 5 business days of trading. On gold and silver, I just cannot sit by, go to my first Christmas party ever in 3 years without telling you why silver is right now ignited and being predicted to hit 120 to 140 an ounce or higher in the next 7 months. Did you know COMEX shut down for an entire nearly day of trading because somebody tried to put in an order for half of the world's silver supply on Thanksgiving? Did you know India has increased their imports of silver 587%, nearly 6-fold in just the last 30 days? There is so much going on. I got to bring this to you fast, hard, quick, and then get off to the first Christmas party in 3 years. I know I've said that twice. I'm very excited. Stay tuned, watch. I've got the math, the charts, the open source info, and we'll get after it very shortly. Share this everywhere. Join on the live stream. We'll see you in a few. And that live stream is now. Welcome back to the Sovereign Soul Show, all of you divine lions and lionesses. For those of you, if this is your first time watching, welcome. I'm your host, Brad Wozni. I served what I thought was a country, like Canada, as an infantry soldier for a stint, then also as a wildfire initial attack Hell Ranger. I know it's a lot to say, but it's the Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources Wildfire Fire Ranger program. Was awesome. Getting to take our fire engines, which were helicopters, to the fires. Typically, there were only a few times we drove the fire truck, pickup trucks though, to forest fires and grass fires and whatnot. But I got to do that around Northern Ontario and then also in the Yukon along the Alaska border as well. It's an amazing time. And then also, as you know, later transitioned into the corporate world for a little bit. And during that time there, I was probably the only person with the show out here who can tell you that I was at ground zero as rescue efforts went on. And then I was flown up to Washington in the Pentagon and then taken 18 stories below it. And that, again, was a missile that was fired into the Pentagon. And again, at that corporate job, we have all of the emails all in our network operations center, missile, and the 3 World Trade Center buildings were demolished in their footprints with thermite directed energy weapons and whatnot. So that was my time. I was there from 2000 to 2002, primarily Wall Street being my proving grounds. And what any of you, if you have not seen the show, don't know is I went to Wilfrid Laurier University, then in the 90s, known in Canada as the Harvard Business School of the North. And Wilfrid Laurier in Waterloo, Ontario, that university program, business and economics, I went there for the honors economics program. And then right down the street from us, literally just a few blocks down the road, we had University of Waterloo, which is known for its computer science and all mathematics and physics programs. And it was called the MIT of the North. So very fortunate to have had some really interesting parts of my life take me through this. And why do I give that extrapolation on the background here if you're new to the Sovereign Soul Show? Well, yeah, you can see here, we stand for love, levity, and liberty. That's what we all need to do. And I've got the Bling Buddha as our mascot, and he's firing red pills of awakening from his SIG 226 9mm. And he wears a Punisher's tattoo over his left breast, symbolizing save the children. Now, you can see in his left hand, he's got the lotus, flower of life symbology, and a dove of peace on his shoulder. And he's called the Bling Buddha for a reason. He's wearing a gold chain and a silver token. And that token, yes, it has had the Ripple XRP token label on it. But gold and silver is really key here. And since we're talking about 120 an ounce silver, and what I gave to you in my background, being on Wall Street, literally just working with the legal firms and the Wall Street brokers and the financial houses and some hedge funds, as well as being tasked on our Department of Defense team for the corporate position I was at. As you can see here in Spiritual Street Fighter 17's beautiful rendition of exactly what Q said Gold shall destroy the Fed. And this is what President Trump has been talking about here again, is on his Truth Social. And he has mentioned we are in the golden age. This is the golden age. There's liquid gold underneath our feet. We're going back to the golden age. We're going back to the Constitution. They're going back to the aliens, the Seditions Act. They're going back to constitutional law. They have trained many, many thousands of lawyers out of the bar system into the common law constitutional system now, from judge advocate generals all the way to brick and mortar legal society lawyers now trained on common law, which is above it, right? So it's here. It's absolutely here that we are ending the deep state Federal Reserve note, the enslavement. And here again, so you know this is coming directly from the commander-in-chief at this current time, April 20th, is this post on Truth Social where he said, "He who has gold makes the rules. Thank you." Now, all of this that I'm sharing on this show is the last 30 days. If you saw November 9th, my show, which was the $8,000 an ounce gold show, I gave to you extrapolated with math, with charts and open source information as to the exact date based on the compounded annual growth rate of gold for the prior 750 days leading up to November 9th, when it would cross $8,000 an ounce. If you haven't seen that show, if you're here on YouTube or you're on Rumble, I'll take you over to that now. So I'll show it to you so you can see what that thumbnail looks like, and you can go into a deep dive on the charts. As I saw in the beginning, as you heard in the beginning, they don't have a production team. It's Sunday, right? It's just me, myself, and I, and all of you awesome souls. So here we are. So let me take you over there, because if you want all the charts, all the math, everything with regards to it, it's right here on this show. So it's called the Financial Armageddon Show. It was November 9th. So not even exactly 4 weeks, from today when I had this. And it says, Financial Armageddon, when's this historic silver squeeze launch gold to a jaw-dropping 8,000 an ounce? All right, now on that show, you will see all the charts and all the math. But the bottom line, all you just need to know for what you want right now is took the compounded annual growth rate of gold then from the prior 750 days, and I just forecasted it the next 750. And guess what? That gets you to $8,000 an ounce gold. And I showed without any wide open market swings, speculation, and volatility in the market, right? Just kind of everything being equal, which is an economic principle, ceteris paribus, everything being equal, that continued trajected path of what gold did daily for 750 days prior, the next 750 days, that's when it hits $8,000 an ounce gold. When that hits $8,000 an ounce gold from that formula, that is also when silver hits 120 an ounce on that formula. And I just did that for gold, but it came out to September 22nd, 2027 is the day that silver hits 120 an ounce based on that formula that I put together for all of you on that $8,000 an ounce gold show on November 9th. Well, what happened in the last 30 days since that show to where we are now is freaking incredible, off the charts. In case you missed it, I mean, there's a lot that's going on, but I find this one substantial. That somebody, maybe it was a state actor, put it in order on Thanksgiving, on U.S. Thanksgiving. So Friday was the 27th, Thanksgiving, the Thursday was the 26th. Into COMEX, the commodities exchange, which is run by the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, which runs all of that for the world. And I'll take you over to all the open source information in a moment. Put it in order for nearly half of the world's silver supply. Hey, if some people are out here going, man, I don't know if I can put an order in for 5,000 ounces of silver right now. They put in an order for 400 million ounces of silver bullion. Now, when they put in an order, and you can back it up with the cash, that order needs to be fulfilled. Somebody attempted to buy half of the world's silver supply on Thanksgiving Day. Wow. Now, remember on that $8,000 an ounce show and on the show in September that I shared with you all of what is going on with gold and silver and why it's all reached epic proportions and the charting is just through the roof. I showed you we have the largest silver producer in Europe that then was saying we can't fulfill orders for at least 2 months, if not 3 months. That silver supplier said, we want to have a gold facility in America. And then you have the economic warfare between the Chinese markets, India, and the LBMA, the London Bullion Market Association, which was set up by the Rothschilds. You can still see it on Wikipedia if you go there. It's like 1865, set up by the Rothschild family, and a couple of the other ones you'll recognize set up the LBMA. Well, guess what? Where are you now? The lease rates are at all-time highs. They claim, oh, it's only over 23-year high since 2002. Let me take you to what happened, which is cataclysmic on Christmas time, with somebody trying to put in an order and backing it up cash for 400 million ounces of the typical 850 million an ounce silver supply annually. Tried to buy that. Here it is on Fortune magazine talking about that. And what did they do? Suddenly, again, this I'm alleging here because we don't have the exact information here, but suddenly the markets froze and you couldn't do anything for an entire day, nearly 12 hours right after that. So here's Fortune magazine's explanation on that. Worldwide markets roiled by data center snafu in a Chicago suburb. Do you see how they minimize that? Do you see the psyops that we've all been living through for nearly 6 years from a health standpoint, our freedom standpoint, the banking standpoint? You all know about the deep state, the fiat currency, and I highlighted the word snafu. Catherine Doherty, Isis Almeida, and Sagarika Jasingi and Lynn Doan and Bloomberg wrote this article. Snafu. All of you lions, lionesses out there know snafu means situation normal, all fucked up. So Fortune magazine, Fortune is telling you, trading suspended, situation normal, all fucked up, right? Like micro penis mastard normies come to mind from my standpoint for people writing that. So again, they try to sweep it under like, data center was hit, something happened. Here's a few more how they try to explain it. Here you are on US news, and this was an article that was repurposed there by Reuters. So you can see over your left side, Friday, November 27. Global futures reopen after exchange operator CME, that's the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, suffers a multi-hour disruption, goes on for roughly 12 hours. Folks, that's an entire day of trading, right? That's in one full day of trading out of the work week. So here you are, knocked out for over 11 hours, and the CME blamed the outage on a cooling failure at data centers. Cooling failure. Do you remember the hunt for Red October? Ryan Tinction here don't react very well to bullets, right? That was Connery as the Russian captain saying that to Jack Ryan to go and get the cook who is hidden guy in the cooling towers for the freaking ICBM nuclear missiles. See, if the fission rods aren't properly cooled, you have a cataclysmic disaster. If you have a data center where for some reason something's not being cooled, and I worked in the high-tech industry and can tell you that for nearly half a decade directly, and this is in the early 2000s and the end of 1990s, the fact is they have redundancy, cutovers, network operation centers, failbacks, and fail-safes. So that is total fucking bullshit as far as I'm concerned. This is great for all of us sovereign souls around the world to see how they're trying to cover it up, right? Here it is again on FX leaders. CME Group halts trading across 5 major markets after a data center glitch. Remember, snafu, situation normal, all fucked up, right? We do this all the time. Friday, November 28th. It happened on Thanksgiving Day. How many trades are actually happening on American Thanksgiving Day compared to a typical normal business day? A fraction of them. So here it is. CME Group, one of the world's largest derivatives exchanges, suspended trading across major asset classes following a critical systems. And then it just kind of ties off from that. Says suspended trading across major asset classes due to a critical systems failure at its Cyrus 1 data center, impacting currency, stock futures, and commodities. CME Group is one of the world's largest derivative exchanges, suspended trading across major asset classes following a critical system failure at its Cyrus 1 data center. Let me tell you something, everybody. Have you ever heard of The Big Short? And you ever heard of a man named Brad Katsuyama? Brilliant financial guy, RBC, Royal Bank of Canada, Capital Markets. He was on my floor in first year university. I went to the honors economics program. He went to the honors business program at WLU. We were 2 doors down, living with each other on our same floor, like 16 guys, 8 rooms, right? 2 guys per room for a year. Brad Katsuyama is the one who found out about front running the exchange markets. They even wrote a book about this. Michael Schmidlin authored it about what he did, and they were trying to make that into the movie. This would be the next Big Short. This was a guy who was my floor mate in first year university. And back then, even they knew from the Chicago Merc all the way to the New York Stock Exchange and other data centers in the NASDAQ, there are direct line of sight microwave beams to ensure that all of this infrastructure does not fail. That is I call effing BS to all of that. Somebody tried to get half of the world's silver supply and they went, whoa, we can't fulfill the order. This is what I'm alleging. We can't fulfill the order. Pull out all the plugs. Stop trading, stop trading, stop trading, right? And try to do a system reset. This is winning in a big way. You sovereign souls, for everybody who has some precious metals right now, gold, silver, and whatnot, because the cap is off, and we're going to continue here. So let me share with you another article. All right, and this is the final one. I like the way that this guy puts it up. So this is on Business Insider. Trading restarts at the CME after a cooling issue at a data center prompted a halt. Well, there you are. November 28th, Friday. Trading across the majority of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange markets ground to a halt for several hours due to a cooling issue. And there it is. There's their own little thing on 10:13 p.m. Due to a cooling issue, our markets are currently halted. Okay. Well, that was not the one I want to show you, but that's actually a really good one. Where's the guy with the text message? It was awesome. Sorry, it was put up there on Twitter X. Yep, here it is. Let me just go back to that article so you all have it, because he puts it in layman's terms. And this is a top Twitter X handle, Manpreet Kalan, right? Trader. Breaking. CME just halted all futures trading because of a cooling failure at their data center. Read that again. The entire derivatives market froze because a server room got too hot. This is the same market that moves trillions, sets global prices, hedges entire economies. So what we've got going on now, with that, on top of all these seismic, cataclysmic financial events, China, India, LBMA, Russia started stockpiling silver for the first time in June and started gobbling it up. China, we know, has been at it. Other people we know have been at it. We've got a silver squeeze and a silver shortage, and silver twice in the past week on Monday and then Friday crossed $59 an ounce spot price US, not even through futures market. They're trying to backwardation to draw back the futures prices so they can't cover their derivatives, their short positions, and just go through the freaking floor. And when we have an inverse relationship, when the big guys go, oh my gosh, I can't fill my shorts, my derivatives positions. It's the end of year. December 31 is 24 days away from today, which is the typical end of fiscal year for the big banks, BofA, Wells Fargo, right? JP Morgan Chase, Citi, you name it, all the other ones too. And then the tier 2 ones underneath it. And then you've also got the typical hedge funds, trading houses, brokerages that have typically the same fiscal year calendar. And at that time, they have to have everything complete and cover their shorts, cover their positions. Freaking spicy for you, me, and all the sovereign souls that know about the complete disaster that the deep state Federal Reserve Note is. That relationship as well is inverse, right? Like an elevator. Think of a counterweight. So as the fiat US Federal Reserve Note dollar crashes, because right now it was started in 2013, everybody remember the FBI, the ADL, the IRS, and the Federal Reserve Board, FRB, 1913 Act, never existed before 1913. And that's when they brought in the Federal Reserve note dollar and they started printing it and they set it up and they stole everybody's gold in America in the early 30s. And in a 10-month period of time, after they got everybody's gold with a gun to their head that said, if you don't give us this gold, that's it, you're going to jail. And I did that show 2 years ago. Everybody can go back and they can look at that one with all of the historical data, the president, the executive orders, everything that was signed and backed up by the military and the sheriffs. And they went out, give us your gold. We're going to pay you $24 an ounce for the gold. And then all of a sudden they reset the price to 32 an ounce. And then they said, we're not going to pay our debts with gold. All of you people out there who are countries in the 1930s, we're going to pay it with these new money that we printed. But you pay us with gold, we'll give you money. We're here. We're almost at that 100-year period of time in a few years from now when all that happened and we're seeing it unravel. And it's beautiful for us, sovereign souls, in a position to take advantage of it. You know that we're with Goldco. They're our partner. Goldco is incredibly. Go to buddhalovesgold.com. Make sure we have this link up on the screen for everybody because you have an instant silver and gold match on qualified orders from sometimes up to 10%. So you can call them. They're open tomorrow to call them, or you can go online to buddhalovesgold.com right now. By the way, 7,000. I typically said 5,000. They updated me over the last year. 7,000 5-star reviews. And in 2024, they were voted the #1 money manager in America for customer service. So as far as I'm concerned, it's like having God on speed dial for precious metals. So you can call them tomorrow. All the information's below in the description, the link, the toll-free number. Talk to them, get informed, get information. Because here's where I see this going, and we're going to continue here with a couple more facts that have come out in the last 30 days, just beyond somebody trying to put in an order for 400 million ounces of silver on Thanksgiving Day. And suddenly the system crashed due to a cooling tower issue. No data centers, redundancy failovers, triple authenticated network operation centers in different places, no high-level microwave beams that go down to the nano or microsecond or millisecond for data that transitions between the towers, which they do have, which are set up between Chicago to New York to New Jersey right now and have been for 10, 15 years. None of that can happen. Nothing backed up by satellite, fiber optic cables. Isn't that amazing how that can happen in these days when this is the place that is running trillions of dollars worth of derivatives and markets and exchanges? Something got overheated from one trade. Really? Suspect. So what's coming? We can see it. It's not even the writing is on the wall. The writing, it's all here. We're living in it. The U.S. Treasury has moved and turned out to the U.S. dollar backed by RippleNet. And as we showed in August, that the reports are that they have printed over $500 billion in stable coins in that first 2 weeks since the Genius Act was signed. That's another thing. We are less than 30 days away from the Genius Act coming into power for everybody in their IRAs, their 401ks in America, as well as in stock market investing portfolios, so they can actually have brokers put cryptocurrencies into their portfolios and so much more. So the whole freaking financial market has shifted massively. So let's continue on here with a few other points and data points. So India, 500, I read out 587%. I was wrong. I apologize. It was 528.7%. So I read that on the trailer is 587%. They have only increased their silver imports by 528% since October. So in a 30-day period of time, 4 weeks, India over 5 times brought in the amount of silver. And what else did they do? Remember, I showed you on the $8,000 an ounce show in November 9th that they had brought in and repriced silver. They repriced silver. They went, we know what those markets say, but for us internally, silver is 10 times the value that the international markets state. That is India. Take what you want. Remember, they are a nuclear power. They've got an approximately 1 billion or so population. They are a massive revenue generator growth. And this country is the I in BRICS. Brazil, Russia, India, China, the S is Saudi Arabia, and now you have parts of the South American countries that have been jumping onto BRICS right up until President Trump being voted in to office a little over a year ago. Massive. So they've increased their intake over fivefold in the last 30 days. And they're expected to bring in 5,500 tons right now reported by the time January rolls out. So they imported 2,200 tons of silver between September and October in 8 weeks. 2,200 tons of silver bullion. And India's October silver imports hit 2.71 billion. That is massive. When you look outside of Russia, China, and America, that is freaking huge. And then China's inventories are being said that it's hitting decade lows. So this comes from ING and Reuters News that just in the last 4 weeks, Shanghai silver inventories are down 531,000 kilograms, or get this, it literally reads this, approximately 17 million ounces. That's the lowest since 2015. It then said Chinese exports of silver surged above 660 tons. So their inventories are down about 17 million ounces. Their exports have surged, and Shanghai is in backwardation, signaling immediate tightness. This is on ING and Reuters. And China is hoarding and strategically exporting to manipulate flows. That's the summary of these articles. And then we look at Russia and BRICS integration into going into hard assets rather than just having its own crypto token, digital asset token. It's gold backed, asset backed, right? And then silver backed. So here's Russia, which I mentioned to you earlier because I did this on the show in August. It's been shifting its reserves out of US dollar assets into commodities. BRICS is openly discussed, and again, same articles, commodity-backed settlement systems, including precious metals. And we know that the Eurasian Economic Union reported in the fourth quarter, they are accelerating development of a commodity-anchored currency framework. And sovereign wealth funds, that wasn't just the very first time you heard it in January. Maybe for America you did, but there are nations that have their own sovereign wealth funds, and it even speaks to Russia's sovereign wealth funds have increased their metals weighting with silver, like I mentioned. So here we are. There is a huge global direction flow just in the last 30 plus days for nations and their central banks, which are hoarding silver and gold, yes, but the silver we're seeing snap back up. So when you look at silver hit $59.22 on Monday of this week spot price. Then that was Friday, $59.22. On Monday it was $59.03. What you see is also the ratio between silver and gold. It was typically 81, 80, and 84 to 1, and then it came down to 71. So we have that snapback. When you talk about price elasticity and inelasticity in economics, we see the correction starting to come into it very, very fast. And again, let's go look at another source of what has been happening, just calling out what has just happened. Some people are still reading the Wall Street Journal. Well, here it is, right? Look who's betting big. And this, again, is from the Wall Street Journal. Let me just pull up the date that this is published. I think it was first. It is. Silver hits record high on U.S. rate cut bets, supply tightness. Now, again, they're going to just do a really nice, flowy, soft job here. And their subtitle is Investor Interest in Precious Metals Has Surged, partly driven by concerns over rising debt levels in major economies. You know, these things I used to respect people who could write these articles 30 freaking plus years ago, gone in to do economics, and wow, look at these institutions. What do they have? I'm like, you just look at the last two shows I did in 2 hours worth it and the cumulative details that you can see from the exchanges, from the treasuries, from the moves that have been made by private hedge funds, billionaires. And I mean, just look at the billionaires too, right? I was telling you, and here's Cassandra and Change talking about it. Sometimes we see bubbles. Sometimes there's something to do about it. Sometimes the only winning move is not to play, right? And you know that this bubble is right here. And so I was sharing with you that in February and March of this year, we had that one investor himself who bought 2.8 billion in silver for fear of the Great Reset. Well, I've shown that article again and again and again. And there's so many more who have been making the bet because, again, you have the deep state Federal Reserve note, which has crashed in its value at about 95% now from when it first came out. So then you have an inverse relationship. When that goes down, the counterweight comes up, precious metals. And those precious metals are soaring. And any indicator that you have as to what's happening with COMEX, when people were talking about the suppression coming off of COMEX, we'll take a look at what just happened. And I just reported here on the 27th of Christmas, or excuse me, Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving, right? 400 million an ounce order? No. We melted our servers. Sorry. They got a little too hot. We had to pull the plug on trading worldwide everywhere for up to 12 hours. It cooled down. Now, by the way, all of you who have laptops, all of you have had the old brick and mortar towers, the NEC, the Dells, or the IBM ThinkPads. You all remember that, right? We all had them, the laptop bricks before that. And you had your tower. And if in case, we're going back 20 plus years here, everybody. Remember, if that thing got too hot with the fan in the back, what did you do? You just pulled it out, just brought it out from the wall a few inches, and you put a fan on the fan, or you unplugged it, and 5 or 6 minutes later, or within 10 minutes, it's cooled down. All is good, and it's up and running again. So it's quacking like a duck, smells like a duck, and here we are. Great to see you from Poland in here. Fantastic. Great to see everybody in the chat on both sides right now. So once again, everybody, this is the new Nasara, if you will, that's going on right now. We are living in it. Bishop Jim just says here in the Rumble chat, great to see you, Bishop Jim. Can't deliver silver. They don't have. They are really out. Turkey is trying to buy up silver. Those who have paper silver are going to be really screwed. Or Scrooged at Christmas. Yeah, exactly, Bishop Jim. It's awesome. So wonderful to see everybody here. So again, here we are. Let me just recap this once again on top of what happened at COMEX and CME over the holidays. So silver has broken $59 an ounce twice. That's an all-time record. LBMA lease rates are the highest they've ever seen. They're saying it's the highest in 20 years, 23 years. I can't find data that says that it's never been. So right now I'm going with never been that high before. 35% annualized lease rates. COMEX has that trading interruption. Price has tripled on silver since 2023. India and China are inhaling it. They're gobbling it up. Structural deficit is now exceeding 820 million ounces. That's a deficit. So it's reported that the annual output is 850 million ounces, and you're at a deficit right now of 820. That has to fill the orders to get things going. And hedge funds and sovereign funds are loading up their positions going long. Silver and gold. So again, I highly encourage you to protect yourself when the window is open right now. That's why I feel very strongly that by June, if not by 4th of next year, we are going to see silver crash through 120 an ounce. And it will not go back. We're returning to constitutional sovereignty. When you return to sovereignty, you're returning to God. That's exactly what that is. And I'll be there for everybody right now. So jump over to BuddhaLovesGold.com. All the information there. You see me. And once again, as President Trump has said, we're here in the freaking golden age. And he who has the gold makes the rules. And like Q said, all those years ago, 2018, gold shall destroy the Fed. That's where we are right now. You're seeing a historic silver squeeze that is igniting a new financial revolution. And this is where you consider the tipping point, and I believe generate multi-generational wealth for you and all of your family and your friends. So thank you all for being here. Wishing you all a fine evening ahead. I've got to run, as you heard in the beginning, to my first ever Christmas party in 3 years. So very excited about that. But in the meantime, do not let this pass you up. Do not let this pass you up. Highly encourage people to get into some form of silver and gold, precious metals. And if you're in the States, you can do it all with our great Goldco partner. And here's President Trump giving you a little bit of his thoughts on gold versus the fiat dollar and what's to come. We'll see you soon. All right, you sovereign souls, now is the time to protect your money with gold and silver if you already have not. And if you are and you have a chance to do so, I highly encourage to do so even more, because gold and silver will launch the golden age, which Commander-in-Chief Trump has continuously referenced.
The dollar is going down, and it's not a pretty picture, and it's not being sustained by proper policy and proper thinking. This was an opportunity, and maybe an opportunity to show people what's happening with the dollar so that we can do something about it.
Get some if you can. BuddhaLovesGold.com will take you to our partner Goldco. They have over 6,000 five-star reviews. This is why now is the time to buy gold and silver, because we have thousands of Americans buying gold today. The rising inflation has reduced our purchasing power. Dysfunctional politics don't work for us. The US dollar has lost over 97% of its value since 1913, while the price of gold has increased over 9,000%. Silver has fared well against the dollar too, with the silver price increasing over 4,500% since 1913. It's about wealth protection. Physical precious metals act as a hedge against dips in volatile markets. Go over to BuddhaLovesGold.com. That's www.BUDDHA, BuddhaLovesGold.com. You will download your free silver and gold guide today, and our great people over there at Goldco will take care of you. That's BuddhaLovesGold.com. You'll see a picture of me right on there, Brad Wozni. And once again, BRICS is the new financial system. Asset-backed precious metals is the way of the future. This is about financial control. Diversifying your assets with gold and silver puts you in control of your wealth at BuddhaLovesGold.com.